A voice echoes through the skies, shouting the name Mumyong. Our hero, lying on the ground, truly believed that voice was calling down from the heavens. From that moment on, he was given a single order: protect that child. For that would be his sole reason for living. The one who gave the order was Cheon Family, the powerhouse leader of the Cheon family. Because of this, our main character spent his life wondering what his true purpose really was. But back then, he was still completely in the dark about the whole truth. He just stayed there on the ground, not really catching on to what was happening around him. All he could see was that terrified little boy trying to hide. He had no clue the kid would grow up to be the total lowlife, who would ruin the Cheon family. Even so, he accepted the big boss's order and gave a deep bow of loyalty. Fast forward 15 years into the future. During that time, the leader of the family ended up passing away. Because of that, the young master Cheon Muriang's attitude got way worse, and the family fortune vanished into thin air. Seeing the ship sinking, everyone started jumping overboard and abandoning the family. Even with everything falling apart, our hero stayed right by Cheon Muriang's side. That's how our protagonist ended up as Cheon Muriang's personal bodyguard. He was always shielding the guy, who honestly acted like a total coward whenever a fight broke out. Then, on one rainy day, two sketchy-looking figures showed up at the front door. In the blink of an eye, our hero was stabbed right in the back. To his absolute shock, the one who betrayed him was Cheon Muriang himself. Collapsed on the ground, he wondered if all that loyalty was even worth it in the end. Meanwhile, the young master was crying and shaking like a leaf while holding the sword. Due to the fatal blow, our main man fell to his knees, completely out of strength. In that moment, he realized that some people simply never change. From the ground, he could see his master and a mysterious group closing in. Right after that, the hooded men started walking toward him. Cheon Muriang looked at them with pure desperation, looking like he was begging for something. The men in red hoods just ignored the guy and kept moving. Even on the verge of perishing, our hero was still trying to put up a fight. With his last bit of energy, Mumyong grabbed the blade to try and save himself. Our hero then asks Cheon Muriang if he actually thought they'd let him live. He questions if the guy really believed that a creepy cult would actually help him. On that rainy night, the young master's betrayal was becoming clearer and clearer. With a look of pure rage, Mumyong tells him he was completely wrong. Suddenly, a huge flash of lightning lights up the place, revealing a new horror. Those mysterious figures were actually bizarre members of a twisted cult. One of them had their eyes and mouth sewn shut in the creepiest way possible, while another wore a demon mask and carried around souvenirs from his victims. Seeing Cheon Muriang's panic, our hero tells him he should have never called those people. Just then, a giant old man lifts a massive weapon to take out the young master. Cheon Muriang tries to run for his life, but the blow was already on its way. The giant blade comes crashing down, taking out the traitor instantly. Watching the scene, our hero regrets every second he spent serving that brat. Agonizing on the ground, he asks his former master if he's seeing this mess now. Gathering his final strength, Mumyong stands up and lunges at one of the cultists. In his final moments, our protagonist wishes he had just left that jerk to rot a long time ago. His sword, which had been his partner for years, falls onto the wet ground. With no strength left to fight, our hero just drops to his knees. The cultists walk toward him, but he's got nothing left in the tank to react. Looking at the situation, he wonders whose fault all of this really was. All he can feel in his heart is one massive wave of regret. He remembers he never even had a real name. He was just called Mumyong when he was taken in, and that name he was given, Mumyong, literally translates to nameless. Back in the present, he looks up at the rainy sky, accepting his fate. With one last breath, he makes a wish that if he's ever reborn one day, he hopes to have a real name while the cultists finish him off. He also hopes he doesn't come back as himself, and just like that, the nameless warrior passes on. However, even after everything, he can still feel an intense chill. He starts thinking that the sensation of passing away is actually pretty cold. But a second later, he wakes up in a totally different place with someone washing his feet. Our hero opens his eyes and sees a random girl washing his feet. He jumps up in a panic, scaring the girl so much she falls backward. Totally lost, he wonders if he's still alive and what on earth is going on. He remembered perfectly being taken out by a bunch of swords. The girl starts apologizing, thinking the water got too cold, and he recognizes her as Wooliang. He remembers she was the young master's personal servant, and was always treated like garbage. She starts begging for forgiveness, and he's confused why she's calling him master. He asks where Cheon Muriang is, and the girl says that he is Cheon Muriang. Wooliang points at him and confirms he's the young master himself. In total disbelief, our protagonist starts feeling his new face. Desperate, he throws himself on the floor to find a reflection somewhere. Looking into the water basin, he sees Cheon Muryang's face and freaks out. Later that night, he's certain that this whole thing isn't a dream. He traveled 15 years back into the past and was reborn in the body of the guy who betrayed him. Sitting on the bed, he stays there thinking about this weird new reality. Then, our protagonist asks Wolyong if there's anyone in the family named Mumyong, but she says no. He realizes that by becoming Cheon Muryang, his old identity has completely vanished. He sees this as a once-in-a-lifetime chance to protect the family with his own hands since he has a 15-year head start. So he starts planning his next move, and suddenly notices something weird about the room. Our hero wonders why the young master's room is so plain and poorly kept. The place is so small it barely looks any different from a random apprentice's room. He keeps looking around, trying to figure out the reason for this low-budget treatment. Suddenly, a blue light catches his eye coming from a sword on a shelf. He vividly remembers that weapon. It was the same one the young master used to end his life. He recognizes the blade as the famous Heavenly Light Sword. This was a legendary weapon born from a bolt of light, capable of cutting through the darkness. He realizes that the Cheon family's treasure sword now belongs to him. The excitement is so real that his nose starts bleeding and his heart starts racing. At the same time, he unsheathes the sword, seeing his new reflection in the blade. With the powerful weapon in hand, our protagonist looks determined to change his fate. Holding the weapon, he realizes it's on a totally different level than anything he's used before. Our hero starts testing out the blade right there in his room. But the young master's heavy body can't keep up with the rhythm of the moves. After just a few swings, he's already completely out of breath and exhausted. He's so weak that the guy starts feeling sick and almost throws up. Because of that, he collapses on the floor, totally spent and unable to move. Our protagonist is shocked because his breathing and muscles hit their limit way too fast. That same night under the full moon, he decides to investigate what's wrong. So the guy sits down to meditate and analyze his new physical condition. Even without training, someone's body shouldn't be this weak just from swinging a sword. Normally, the Chu energy a person cultivates flows freely through the body's meridians. But while analyzing Cheon Muryang's body, he notices something very strange. A massive amount of energy is trapped and clashing inside of him. He quickly realizes that this whole condition has a very specific name. The young master is suffering from Q deviation because he used spiritual medicines the wrong way. The next day, in a training courtyard, several apprentices are practicing with wooden swords. Suddenly, one of the guys gets hit in the head really hard by his opponent. The kid who got hit is furious and screams at the other for going full power during practice. But the attacker just mocks him, saying he won the bet and now he wants his cash. Holding his head, the loser grumbles that the round shouldn't even count. Given the situation, the winner just approaches him with a look of pure contempt. Right at that moment, our hero shows up at the entrance of the training field. The other apprentices are shocked because it's the first time the young master has ever shown up there. Holding a wooden sword, he realizes just how much of a mess his new body really is. The others make fun of him, asking if he's going to give up already and telling him to get lost. He figures out that his priority is losing weight and starts running around the courtyard. The group of bullies just watches him with looks of disdain and curiosity. Even though it's tough, our protagonist runs through the field with total determination. He sprints past the apprentices, who are completely confused by the whole scene. The bully comments that it looks like the young master isn't leaving anytime soon. With an evil smirk, the bully says he's going to make our protagonist want to quit. Then, the guy starts running toward the young master to attack him. But our hero keeps running, out of breath and totally unaware of the guy closing in. While running, he notices his body's condition is way worse than he thought. He remembers that all those spiritual pills turned into poison inside the guy. If the real Cheon Muryang had actually trained, he would have had insane martial power. Suddenly, a sword flies right past his face, catching him totally off guard. Immediately after, he gets hit smack in the stomach by the hilt of the weapon. With the impact, the sword flies off and gets stuck in a wooden pillar. Our hero looks to the side and sees the sharp blade lodged in the wall. Freaked out, he realizes the bully used a real weapon to attack him. The attacker walks up and gives a fake apology, saying the sword just slipped. At the same time, the bully's friends in the back start laughing at the whole situation. The guy keeps up his smug smile, showing he did the whole thing on purpose. Facing the provocation, our hero just glares at them with pure anger. The group of bullies huddles up and says the place is too dangerous for the young master. Our hero realizes they're trying to kick him out of there on purpose. Their leader thinks a simple warning will be enough to scare the guy off. Suddenly, he fakes an apology with a smug grin on his face. Our protagonist thanks him for the fake concern and says he'll be more careful. Right after that, he turns around and goes back to running like nothing even happened. The other apprentices burst out laughing and start collecting money from a bet. With the cash in hand, they decide to go out drinking to celebrate the easy profit. But the leader of the group stays behind, staring at Cheon Family with pure rage. Meanwhile, our hero keeps running without stopping for a single second. He thinks it's absurd that those warriors would insult their own master like that. He then remembers the Cheon family martial arts he always wanted to learn. He realizes that now he can actually enter the family library to study. Arriving at the Heavenly Dragon Library, he runs into a bit of a problem. With an annoyed look, our hero asks what the person in front of him just said. A grumpy-looking guard stares our protagonist down without saying a word. With his spear in hand, he repeats that Cheon Family has lost his rank as the young head of the family. Our hero is completely shocked by the news and can't believe what he just heard. Because of that, his entry to the library is totally denied by the guards blocking him. Defeated, the young guy turns his back and leaves the place, unable to do anything about it. Back in his room, he flops onto the bed, exhausted from everything that happened that day. Sitting there alone, he looks at his plain, cramped room, trying to process it all. The guy realizes everything makes sense now since he lost his noble title. He was planning to learn how to absorb the energy from the medicines, but now he needs a new plan. He starts thinking that Cheon Family's childhood wasn't exactly a walk in the park either. The guy's body was a wreck, and he was surrounded by enemies and backstabbing subordinates. He wonders if that's why the guy thought even his own bodyguard was an enemy. But our hero clenches his fist and tells himself those excuses aren't necessary. The Cheon family was destroyed because the young master let that dark cult inside. He concludes that he was also alone, but for a different reason. His intense training. Inside the room, our protagonist notices a food box was left for him. He opens it and sees a mushroom dish made by Woleong, but complains about the lack of meat. While eating, the guy wonders how Cheon Family managed to get so out of shape eating stuff like that. But he realizes that at least he has one person on his side for this journey. So the next day, the young master wakes up early to start his daily training. Outside, he starts stretching and getting ready for another day of working out. Even with his body feeling like lead, the guy takes a deep breath and prepares for what's coming. He starts complaining because his whole body hurts from just a simple warm-up. Right then, Woleong shows up and is surprised to see him already awake. Holding a box in her hands, she asks if he's going to train again that day. Our hero says yes in a bit of an awkward way, and she wishes him good luck. He watches her walk away and notices she's carrying some clothes in her hands. Because of that, our hero asks if those are his clothes in the box for the laundry. The girl gets startled and apologizes, saying she fell asleep while waiting for him. With a smile, he thinks his only ally doesn't seem to be much help. He suddenly walks up to her, and the girl gets spooked by the unexpected move. Then, the guy puts his hand on her shoulder and thanks her for all her hard work. Woleong is totally stunned, not understanding the reason for that sudden change in attitude. He apologizes and warns her that she's going to have a lot more laundry to deal with soon. Right after, our hero goes back to running to keep up his heavy training. The girl just stands there blushing, not understanding the young master's sudden change. Later that same night under the full moon, the guy continues his tireless training. Our hero runs through the mansion courtyards, even though he's completely wiped out. Without stopping for a second, he keeps pushing himself to lose weight. He's so tired that the guy can barely breathe properly while running. Because of that, he feels like he's about to pass out from all the physical effort. Suddenly, the scene shifts, and he remembers a moment from his old training days. An instructor was screaming at him to focus on practice and stop looking around. The man accuses him of wanting to go to the festival and punishes him with 100 hits to the head. Even while getting beat, young Mumiong accepted the punishment in silence and with determination. The scene goes back to the past, where a little girl complains about Mumiong being slow during training. In contrast, little Cheon Family was having a blast and asking to go to the Lantern Festival. Alone, our hero wondered if he had ever made a single decision for himself. He had no choice, and just picked up the sword to pay back the family head's kindness. But back in the present, our protagonist smiles while pushing himself to the max. Running under the moon, he thinks about how all of this is actually pretty fun. From a distance, Wolyang watches the guy's night run with a worried look. The girl just stands there, whispering her young master's title. Suddenly, the guy's body gives out, and he trips, falling face first onto the ground. On the floor, he thinks that Wolyang was actually stronger than he imagined. Even with the rain pouring down, our hero keeps up his training. The group of bullies shows up again and complains about his daily persistence. One of them hands a bag of money to the other, because he lost a bet. The loser gets annoyed and complains about how pathetic the guy's attitude is. A buddy tells him to shut up, but he doesn't care and screams about the young master's situation. The guy keeps going, saying that even if the young master becomes the head, he'll have no power. He even questions if the elders and Master Cheon Family would ever follow his orders. The bully says they'll just join other groups, and that they don't owe him anything. So, the group decides to head out, thanking him for the easy betting money. But their leader stays behind with a look of pure irritation on his face. He just watches our hero running in the rain without stopping for even a second. The bully calls him an idiot and thinks he's trying to win back his old rank. Suddenly, the guy stops running and stands right in front of the group of bullies. The attacker then realizes that the young master heard their whole conversation. At the same time, a girl appears in the distance, watching the scene closely. Holding some fabrics, she glares at the situation with a very serious look. Her face shows clear disapproval of what's going on there. The scene then shifts to a sunny day in a training courtyard. With a steady hand, our protagonist grabs one of the swords from the rack. From there, he draws the blade with a determined look toward his future. With the sword in hand, our protagonist starts testing his moves in the courtyard. He gives a satisfied smile at the results of his training. He notices he finally has the stamina to train and speed up the medicine absorption. Suddenly, a female voice screams at one of the bullies to take back what he said. Our hero turns around and sees the group of attackers cornering someone. The girl screams at them not to insult the young master, and to defend him instead. Our hero is surprised by the girl's gutsy attitude. He realizes that Wolyang is being threatened by the leader of the bullies. The attacker screams furiously and tells the girl to repeat what she just said. But Wolyang doesn't back down and demands he take back the insult against her master. The other guys mock the situation and decide to leave the two of them alone. With his eyes red with rage, the bully calls her insolent for challenging him. Even with the threat, the girl stands her ground with a determined look. Facing the situation, the attacker loses his cool and decides to draw his sword. With the blade in hand, he threatens the girl to see if she'll change her tune. Suddenly, a blade appears and blocks the bully's attack at the last second. The attacker is totally stunned and turns around to see who stopped him. To his surprise, our hero is right there with a sword in hand to protect Wolyang. Shocked, the guy can't believe the young master had the guts to challenge him. Our protagonist just glares at him with a serious, fearless look. The attacker tries to stutter something but is left speechless by that move. The young master then tells him to point his sword and get ready to fight. He says that if the bully has something to say to Wolyang, he should say it directly to him. Then the guy shouts that their conversation will be settled with swords. The attacker is incredulous and asks if that's an official challenge to a duel. Our protagonist gives a smirk and repeats the word duel with total mockery. He then says that this will actually be a life or death struggle. He proposes that if the bully wins, he'll never step foot on the training field again. Desperate, Wolyang calls out to the young master, trying to stop this madness. But he ignores her and jabs a wooden sword into the ground to mark the start of the duel. Wolyang is completely shocked by the young master's move with the sword. With a serious face, our hero says he can handle insults against himself. But he won't accept people disrespecting someone who actually cares about him. He screams for Nungryo to draw his sword, because this is what he believes in. The bully asks if he promises to leave, and the guy confirms he's not taking it back. Nungryo gets ready to fight because he feels superior in strength and speed. He thinks that pathetic loser doesn't have a ghost of a chance of winning the duel. Suddenly, a powerful aura starts radiating from our hero's body. The attacker is terrified by that inexplicable fighting spirit coming from the guy. With a look of fury, our protagonist asks if the bully is scared. The attacker takes a step back, and the young master says that if he won't come to the fight, then he'll go to him with a fast and direct attack without hesitating. The guy lunges forward with his sword in a shockingly fast move, but the bully blocks the blow easily and mocks how slow he is. However, an intense glow appears where the blades meet, catching the attacker by surprise. With the impact, the bully's sword goes flying into the air in an instant. Nungryo's weapon falls and gets stuck in the ground right in front of him. The bully is completely shocked, not understanding how he was disarmed so easily. He realizes the young master's target wasn't him, but his sword all along. The guy wonders when that loser got so strong all of a sudden. Our hero questions him for fighting so sloppily in a life or death duel. The attacker falls to his knees, and the young master calls him pathetic. Holding the opponent's weapon, he says the bully doesn't deserve to hold that blade. At the same time, blood drips from his hand, showing the sheer force of that strike. He tells the attacker to think about why he fights and only come back when he has an answer. Kneeling on the ground, the bully is left there reflecting on his reason for holding a sword. Right after, our hero calls Wolyang, and the two walk past the group of bullies. The attacker stays on the ground with his hand reached out, not knowing how to react. The other apprentices just watch the scene as the young master leaves the area. From there, the two walk back to their quarters, leaving the courtyard behind. After the fight, the two walk back, and Wolyang suddenly drops to her knees on the ground. She starts desperately apologizing to the young master. Wolyang says she got annoyed seeing the others mocking his effort, and she shouldn't have interfered. The girl feels guilty that he hurt his hand because of her. Our hero explains the injury isn't her fault and tells her not to apologize. Wolyang is completely surprised by the guy's attitude. He then says he can take insults against him, but not against those who care about him. With a determined look, the young master states he will protect his people at any cost. Hearing that, Wolyang is shocked, and her eyes fill up with tears. She remembers an old New Year's wish the guy made when he was just a kid. In the past, young Cheon Family said he'd become a leader as strong as an elephant. He also promised he'd start training with the sword to protect everyone. Even though he was smaller than her, the boy looked at Wolyang with a determined smile. That day, he made a promise that he would protect her too, no matter what. Back in the present, Wolyang cries tears of joy seeing he kept his promise. With teary eyes, she says he's finally the great master she used to know. Suddenly, a furious voice interrupts the moment, questioning his words. The man asks if he can take responsibility for what he just said, and our hero is confused. Startled, he raises his sword in alert, not knowing where the voice came from. An imposing figure appears, revealing himself as Cheon Family's uncle. He is Cheon Soundhak, one of the three pillars of the family and grandmaster of two corporations. With a look of fury, the master repeats his question about the consequences of his words. Our hero greets him and apologizes for not visiting him sooner. He then remembers that Cheon Soundhak was the master he trusted most in his past life. But the man ignores the greeting and tells him to stop stalling and answer the question. Our hero notices his uncle's cold attitude is exactly the same as it was 15 years ago. So, he says that protecting his people is his conviction, and he'll face the consequences. Cheon Soundhak is furious and questions what he means by his people and conviction. He then accuses him of using a secret technique, the Heavenly Sword Dragon Claw. The master says the technique is a secret, and he could only have learned it from a traitor. Cheon Soundhak screams that he'll find and punish the traitor, and anyone else protecting him. Our hero understands that if he fails, he'll be banned from the training grounds forever. He realizes his uncle is just looking for an excuse to get rid of him for good. Master Cheon Soundhak glares at him with pure contempt, waiting for an answer. Facing the situation, our hero thinks very carefully about his next words. He looks his uncle in the eye and says the traitor doesn't actually exist. Cheon Soundhak is completely shocked by the answer and doesn't get it at all. Our protagonist explains he learned the technique from the master himself by chance. Hearing the lame excuse, the uncle just lets out a totally mocking laugh. Then the master starts laughing out loud, thinking the whole thing is ridiculous, but suddenly his expression shifts, and he gets ready to draw his sword in a rage. The master leaps into the air with his weapon ready to test the kid's skill. Landing on the ground, he says someone like him couldn't possibly copy the move and challenges him. Our hero gets tense and grips his sword tightly, not expecting this. A powerful red aura surrounds Cheon Soundhak's body, showing he's ready for a fight. Our hero says he already told the truth, and if his uncle doesn't believe it, he'll show him another move. Cheon Soundhak is speechless at the sheer confidence coming from the young man. Blood starts dripping from the guy's hands from his injury in the previous duel. The master says he's lying to save his skin and doesn't believe a single word. He turns and calls out to Wolyang, who is standing there terrified. Cheon Soundhak asks the girl to tell him what kind of plan her master is cooking up. He glares at her and warns her not to even think about lying to him. The master threatens her, saying he'll finish her right there if she lies. Wolyang is completely terrified by the threat and the pressure of the moment. Her hands shake with fear, not knowing what to do or say to the master. With a shaky voice, she says that for the past month, the young master has been smiling the whole time. Cheon Family is totally confused by the answer and doesn't understand what she means. He questions her, saying the kid usually explodes with rage because of his complex. Scared, Wolyang just nods her head, confirming what she just said about the guy. The girl just stands there, worried about what might happen to her master. Wolyang keeps explaining that even while running tirelessly at night, the guys seemed different. The girl reports that during all this time, the great young master was always smiling while exercising. Master Cheon Family stays silent, just watching the servant who swears she saw it all. With a sincere look, she says she was happy to see someone working so hard on their own for once. Wolyang says that even when the others mocked him, the guy didn't even look their way and stayed focused. The girl remembers that in the past, he would have blown up or run away, but this time he didn't do it once. Instead of backing down, the young master drew his sword for the first time just to defend her. With total conviction, Wolyang states the guy has changed completely and she believes in him. Faced with the servant's passionate defense, Master Cheon Family stays silent, processing the change. He then frowns, his sharp eyes showing he's making a serious decision about the matter. The uncle turns to our hero and asks which martial arts he knows. He says just the basic family ones. After hearing the answer, the Grandmaster holds up 2 fingers and sets a very specific deadline. He says if the young master defeats the top apprentice in 2 months, he'll try to believe the story. With a challenging look, Cheon Family glares at our protagonist and asks if he can pull it off. Our hero just smiles, remembering his uncle always tested him like this, and says 1 month is plenty. The uncle stays silent for a moment, staring at his nephew with an unreadable look, waiting for him to flinch. Cheon Family sheathes his weapon and agrees to the new deadline, saying, "So be it." The master turns his back and leaves, leaving the 2 alone in the courtyard with a worried Wolyang. But unlike the servant, the guy flashes a mischievous grin and tells her to head back. He got what he wanted. He puts the sword on his shoulder and says he still needs to run a bit more today. From there, time flies by, and we see a time skip of half a month where he trained non-stop. Now in the present, we see his steady hands gripping the sword hilt, showing he's not the same guy. Suddenly, he pulls off a powerful vertical strike, cutting the air with violence and precision. Drenched in sweat, the guy reflects that he basically lived there and reached the 5th level of the sun art. Thanks to that, he melted almost all the yang energy. But the yin energy is still trapped and tricky to clear. Given the situation, he regrets not being able to grab a better cultivation method from the library. Looking at his calloused hand, he wished his energy center would just heal itself like his scrapes. While resting, some apprentices mock him, saying his opponent is lucky to get to humiliate him. They laugh and say he only knows that one vertical move and hope he runs away before the fight. Even hearing it all, our hero ignores it, knowing these rumors are his uncle's way of making him quit. With a serious look, our protagonist hears the teasing but doesn't show any reaction. One of the guys mocks him, saying he probably doesn't know the difference between a hoe and a sword. Our hero walks up and asks if he has something funny to share with the group. He stares the guy down and asks if he's actually the top apprentice in the place. The bully looks back with contempt, and a symbol on his bandana catches the hero's eye. With a cocky smile, he confirms he's the best and promises to go easy during the fight. Our hero feels like he's seen that face before and asks for his name. The guy introduces himself formally and says his name is Lee Saki. Hearing the name, our protagonist is completely shocked and paralyzed for a second. He remembers that Lee Soki was the traitor who leaked info to the dark cult. With that revelation, rage takes over his face, and he grinds his teeth. Our hero turns away and says he'll remember that name while the group laughs at him. He thinks that before he just wanted to do his best, but now his plans have changed. With a look of pure fury, he swears that traitor is going to pay a heavy price for everything. So, half a month passes, and the day of the big duel in the arena finally arrives. In the crowd, people comment they can't wait to see the young master get embarrassed. But some wonder if he's changed. Suddenly, the judge barks for absolute silence to start the long-awaited family event. He announces the fight organized by Grandmaster Cheon Family is starting right now. The man calls the challenger, Lee Seoki, to step forward while the uncle watches from his throne. With a confident smirk, the traitor raises his sword and enters the arena, ready for a sure win. Then the judge shouts at the top of his lungs for Cheon Murim to show up for combat. But to everyone's surprise, no one answers, and the judge looks around, totally confused. The man stares at the empty entrance and repeats the young master's name with zero response. The crowd starts whispering, thinking he ran away like a coward at the very last second. Someone in the crowd can't hold back a laugh at the totally pathetic situation. Everyone bursts out laughing, saying they knew that coward wouldn't have the guts to show. Cheon Family looks disappointed while Lee Soji just smirks at the whole mess. Suddenly, a steady voice cuts through the laughter, saying Cheon Family is right there. The traitor and the uncle are completely shocked to hear that sudden statement. Our protagonist walks calmly into the arena, ready to shut everyone up. The crowd is totally confused, looking around and wondering where the old fat master went, and who this guy is. An unrecognizable figure appears. The guy lost all the weight and has the posture of a true warrior. With a calm look, he introduces himself as Cheon Family and says he's ready to fight, leaving them speechless. The shock is everywhere, people whisper, not believing he lost that much weight so fast. It makes no sense to them. Ignoring the crowd, our hero looks up at the stands where the authorities are sitting. With a respectful gesture, he joins his hands and apologizes to his uncle for being late. Cheon Family frowns with impatience and says skip the formalities. He just wants to know if he's ready. Without hesitating, the guy spins his wooden sword with skill and says he's definitely ready for the challenge. Lee Soki watches from a distance in an awkward silence, analyzing his opponent's new confidence. The traitor is annoyed by the look on the young master's face, thinking the weight loss went to his head. He looks over to the main box, trying to figure out what the Grandmaster is thinking by allowing this. He realizes the situation is perfect since the leader and the Dragon and Phoenix captains are all watching. With a malicious smile, Lee Soki decides to use this chance to humiliate the guy and impress the bosses. While the traitor plots, our hero realizes he's already been underestimated and written off by his enemy. Miryang's look turns dark. He knows exactly the kind of dirty parasite who uses people to get power. Our protagonist knows very well that this guy didn't climb the ranks with a sword, but through dirty politics. In his past life, the traitor used sweet talk and brown nosing to gain trust and move up the hierarchy. Blinded by greed, he sold every bit of info he could to the dark cult in exchange for riches. The bitter memory returns because when he realized the betrayal back then, it was already too late for justice. But now, facing the enemy, he thinks that even if the crime hasn't happened yet, that's exactly why he must be stopped. Lee Soki probably thinks everything is going perfectly since he made it to top apprentice. But the young master flashes a confident smile, knowing the traitor's fate is about to take a hard turn. Gripping his weapon, our hero decides he knows every move the enemy will make and his career ends today. From above, Cheon Family announces the fight only ends when he says so, and reminds them it's not to the death. Hearing the rules, the guy firms his grip on the wooden sword, focused only on crushing the opponent. Meanwhile, Lee Soki keeps that arrogant smile, believing he'll humiliate the guy easily. Without wasting time, the Grandmaster lets out a powerful shout, starting the combat immediately. In a flash, our protagonist explodes with speed, charging like a bolt of lightning toward his enemy. The attack is so fast it catches the traitor off guard, forcing him to quickly raise his guard to block. The force of the impact is felt even in the ground, showing the young master isn't playing around this time. With an impressive leap, our hero brings his blade down toward his opponent's head. Lee Soki blocks the attack and comments with a mean smile that he heard rumors about the fight with Nungrio. The traitor claims he knows the young master used some weird technique to disarm the rival before. He shifts his stance and asks mockingly how the guy plans to handle what's coming next. Our protagonist notices the shift in the air and gets ready for a much heavier attack than before. The opponent grips the sword with both hands, tensing his muscles for a crushing overhead blow. With a challenging look, he dares the young master to try and deflect that brute force if he can. Then the wooden sword comes down, tearing through the air with insane pressure toward our hero. Impact is imminent, and the guy is forced to quickly raise his defense against that crushing strength. Both warriors show intense effort as the wood almost cracks from the violence of the clash. It looks like sparks are flying, showing this fight is way more intense than just a regular practice. But the young master doesn't just stand there. He uses his agility to slide to the side and exit the direct path. While attacking, Lee Soki thinks to himself that he actually considered going easy to save the noble's dignity. But he remembers the masters are watching and realizes he can't waste this chance to shine. Because of that, he decides to use full power to crush our protagonist right there and move up in the family. The traitor puts all his weight into the strike and tells the guy not to hold a grudge with a sadistic smile. The wooden blades creak under the pressure as he tries to smash through the opponent's defense. Our hero grits his teeth, trying to hold back the weight of the attack, which is much stronger than he expected. Suddenly, the traitor plays dirty and takes an opening to land a violent kick right in the young master's chest. Because of the unexpected hit, the guy loses his balance and is sent flying backward with a lot of force. But he manages to plant his feet and slides across the arena, trying to get his stance back before falling. Facing the situation, our hero takes a deep breath and realizes his current body still has physical limits. Giving him no time to rest, the enemy charges, spinning his sword, ready to end the fight right there. The traitor screams with arrogance for the great young master to pay attention as he prepares the finisher. The guy's eyes widen, seeing the blade coming at him with insane speed. In a split second, the wooden sword comes down, aiming right for our protagonist's shoulder. A dull, painful sound echoes through the arena as the weapon hits the young master's body. The pain is intense, and the guy lets out a muffled cry, feeling the impact crush his muscles and bones. As he drops to his knees defeated, the traitor comments with contempt about the huge gap in their levels. Lee Seok-gi raises his fist in victory, satisfied that everything went exactly as he planned. Lee Seok-gi looks down with a winning smile. Sure, he crushed his opponent, but the sudden silence feels weird. Looking ahead, he notices something bizarre. The stands and the whole crowd seem to be lying on their sides. The traitor wonders why he can't hear anything, and why the training field is spinning like that. Confused, he blinks a few times trying to focus, but the feeling of being totally lost is too strong. Suddenly, a foot steps firmly on the ground right next to his face, bringing him back to harsh reality. In that moment, the shock hits him when he realizes the world isn't tilted. He is. Looking up, Lee Seok-gi sees our hero standing there, looking down with an intimidating presence. With his face pressed against the cold ground, the traitor stutters Cheon Muryang's name, not believing it. Our protagonist flashes a mocking smile and asks calmly if the opponent had a nice little nap. The guy on the ground tries to process things while drool runs down the corner of his mouth, totally out of control. He tries desperately to get up but realizes with horror that his body simply won't obey him. Something on the ground catches his eye, and his eyes go wide, seeing a piece of wood nearby. He recognizes the object and is speechless, seeing it's his own sword snapped in half. Then a flash of memory hits him, and he finally starts to remember what actually happened. The scene goes back to the moment of impact, where we see our hero attacked with deadly force and precision. In that split second, it was a perfect counter attack where our hero used the enemy's own strength against him. Instead of backing up, the young master lunged and slammed the hilt of the broken sword into the traitor's forehead. From the violence of the blow, Lee Seok-gi was sent flying, spinning in the air before hitting the stone floor hard. Back to now, the bully is splayed on the ground, totally defeated and unable to process the loss. With blurry vision, he looks up, wondering how he lost to someone he thought was total trash. Our protagonist glares at him coldly and whispers that he's a turncoat, leaving the enemy confused. Then he announces out loud that he'll let it slide this once, but warns he'll be watching his every move. The traitor starts sweating and tries to lie to himself, thinking he only lost because he let his guard down, but panic grows inside him, because he doesn't know how to explain this embarrassing loss after talking so big. He realizes his reputation is trashed, and his plans to impress the masters just went down the drain. The crowd is in total shock, whispering about how the fight ended in just one single move. Meanwhile, Woolyoung can't hold back her emotions and cries tears of joy, seeing her master is safe and victorious. Ignoring the crowd's noise, our hero turns and looks directly at the tower where the family leadership is. Up there, Uncle Cheon Sounhak grunts and frowns, showing a mix of surprise and annoyance at the result. With the breeze blowing his clothes, the young master stands tall in the arena, proving his will is stronger than steel. Master Cheon Sounhak stays in absolute silence at the top of the tower, just staring at his nephew with an unreadable look. Meanwhile, the crowd goes wild, questioning if the top apprentice really lost in one move, or if it was a trick. Watching the guy's arrogant posture, the uncle thinks with annoyance that the jerk is just going to be even cockier now. Faced with the situation, the master closes his eyes for a second, trying to control his frustration over the loss. Then he stands up abruptly from his throne, making his cape flutter as the sound of his move echoes through the wood. With an imposing voice, Cheon Sounhak starts to declare the official result of the match and the true winner. Suddenly, a loud voice cuts him off as our hero shouts that he knows all about the complaints against him. The crowd is shocked by the interruption, wondering what on earth the young master is talking about now. Our hero faces them all and says he knows they call him a useless pig behind his back and doubt his skill. He keeps going, saying he knows everyone thinks he only got into the secret library because of his family name. With a face full of determination, he shouts that they all think he gets special treatment and is just a spoiled noble. The uncle just watches in silence as his nephew exposes all the dirty truths the apprentices whispered about. The guy says he's sick of the rumors and decided to prove his worth right here in front of everyone. He points his sword at the crowd and throws out an open challenge to anyone who still dares to doubt him. With a killer look, our hero warns he'll face and defeat anyone who has the guts to step into that arena. Master Cheon Family watches from above with a serious look as the nephew's heated speech echoes through the arena. With a steady voice, our protagonist shouts for all to hear that past mistakes can't be erased and he owns every one of them. While the uncle absorbs those words, Woleong watches her master with concern and admiration for his courage. The guy continues, saying he unfortunately doesn't remember every face he hurt, because there were so many who suffered. He thinks those terrible acts were done by the hold. Cheon Family, who was a pathetic being blinded by ego. But even knowing he wasn't that guy, our hero decides to carry the weight of those sins and accept any punishment. He clenches his fist hard because he understands he is the real Cheon Family now and must fix what was broken. Facing dozens of apprentices who hate him, the young master stands firm as a rock, owning his identity as the former villain. With that, he screams from the bottom of his lungs, asking for a sincere apology for all his outrageous past behavior. Then, to everyone's total shock, the proud noble bows his head low, showing a level of humility never seen before. Silence hits the arena as the crowd watches the great young master bow to his subordinates in a sign of respect. The apprentices look at each other, confused, not knowing how to react to this change from someone who treated them like trash. Seeing his sincerity, Woleong presses her hands to her chest, her heart racing at the honorable man he's become. But up in the stands, Master Cheon Family doesn't look moved. He just stares with a mix of suspicion and severity. Finally, he looks up and warns that if apologies aren't enough to calm their rage, anyone can challenge him anytime. Our hero thumps his chest and shouts that he'll be right there waiting for any challenger who shows up. Then he turns to the servant and calls her to leave while the master just watches them in silence. Cheon Family strokes his beard, lost in thought, analyzing everything he just saw in that arena. The clear blue sky shines over the mansion, marking the end of that wild event and the start of a new phase for the guy. On the way back, our hero thanks the girl for taking care of the heavenly light sword during the fight. She says she was nervous, but holding the weapon calmed her down, and she hesitates when he asks for it back. The young master doesn't get it and makes a confused face, asking why she's suddenly being shy about it. With a blush, she hugs the scabbard and asks to hold Little Heaven for a bit longer because it makes her feel safe. Hearing that cute nickname, our hero freezes, and a deep question suddenly pops into his head. He remembers someone once asking what he sought to cut through, and he turns around quickly with a shiver. He looks fixedly at the tower where his uncle was, realizing the connection to the past is incredibly strong. A nostalgic smile appears on his face. He never imagined those words would come back to him like this. Up there, the Grandmaster finally speaks, commenting on the sword technique the guy just showed off. The old master with his piercing look asks if the nephew isn't going to ask what he was trying to cut through. Next to him, Woleong watches her master's expression and realizes something very important just happened. With a confident smile, our hero answers without flinching that his goal was to cut through the sky itself. He looks the girl in the eye and reaffirms his answer, making it clear his ambition is bigger than anyone thinks. Hearing those words, the Grandmaster's eyes go wide in shock. He thinks it's the most absurd thing he's ever heard, but inside, he realizes that's exactly the path of the sword he followed his whole life, and ironically, his nephew got it. Facing the situation, the uncle admits he lost the bet and tells the guy to ask for whatever he wants as a reward. Our hero takes the chance and asks to enter the library, but the master says no, as that's above his pay grade. So the guy puts his hand to his chin, thinking of a quick alternative so he doesn't waste this valuable wish. He shifts the request and asks for permission to fight one different person every single day, surprising the uncle. The young master confirms with a serious look, saying that's enough because he believes real combat is the best training. Cheon Family stares deep into his nephew, looking for any sign of a lie in that iron determination. With that, the old master turns his back, accepting the request, and leaves huffing while our hero smirks. He grips his wooden sword tightly, thinking everything went exactly as planned for him to get stronger. As the master vanishes into the hallways, the pair keeps walking, leaving the empty arena behind them. Curious, Young asks what that cutting the sky stuff meant, and he says mysteriously it's something only he and the master get. Then the scene shifts, and we see the sun lighting up the mansion, meaning a new day with new challenges has arrived. The very next day, we see heavy steps hitting the ground as someone complains about this new situation in the mansion. Lee Sogi is furious because he found out about the cone fight per day rule and thinks the guy just got lucky. But suddenly he stops and realizes this restriction might actually be perfect for a new evil plan. He grips his weapon and starts to draw a real blade, revealing a dangerous metallic glint. The traitor looks at the sword with a psychotic smile, promising to get stronger every day. But in the dirtiest way possible. The polished blade reflects a terrified face, showing his intentions are to cause chaos using someone else's name. The scene shifts to a local tavern at night, where the guy starts screaming at customers, asking if they know who he is. Totally wasted and holding a bottle, he kicks an innocent guy and shouts that he is the great young master Cheon Family. The customers whisper in fear, saying that rich noble paid for them, but is now acting like a total dangerous maniac. One man suggests stopping him, but a friend holds him back, warning not to mess with powerful people or they'll pay for it. Meanwhile, the imposter continues his bizarre act, waving the sword and asking if the Cheon family is a joke to them. On the floor, a poor old man tries to protect himself and begs the master to back off, but his pleas are ignored. With zero mercy, the traitor lifts his sharp weapon and delivers a violent vertical strike meant to hurt anyone in front of him. The sound of a slash echoes, and blood splashes on the attacker's face, who keeps his eyes wide in a violent frenzy. Droplets of bright red blood drip onto the wooden floor, sealing the fate of that night and staining our hero's name. In the tavern, the vibe gets tense as a man in blue asks who that fat guy is stepping on everyone like that. Right after, the warrior feels the taste of iron in his mouth and realizes he's actually bleeding. The imposter doesn't even look back and walks off with his drink, accusing the guy of faking the pain. Humiliated and boiling with rage, the man stares at his own distorted reflection in his sword blade. Back in the present, we find out this vengeful nutjob is Cha Myung-hak, our hero's very first opponent.